Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. The evening sky was tinted gold, slowly melting into hues of blush and mauve. At the heart of Lagos, hidden behind layers of cascading bougainvillea and manicured hedges, sat the Orchid Terrace, an exclusive, members-only venue known for its ethereal ambience and ridiculous waiting list. Inside the main hall, Derek Okoye stood tall in his custom tuxedo, barking last-minute instructions into a walkie-talkie while glancing at his Rolex. Every detail had to be perfect. This was more than a proposal, it was his masterpiece, a grand unveiling of the next chapter in his carefully curated life. "Ensure the lanterns are lit by 8 p.m. sharp," he said to a young event coordinator. "And for heaven's sake, no pink flowers. Alicia hates pink." He turned, giving a tight smile to the decorators. His jaw was tense. His mind wasn't on the lighting or the petals, it was on what he was about to do. Tonight, in front of 150 guests, influencers and the city's elite, he would drop to one knee and propose to Alicia, his side chick of nearly a year. Meanwhile, across town, Miriam Okoye stirred spaghetti sauce in their tastefully minimalist kitchen. She wore an apron over a navy silk blouse, her hair swept into a soft bun. A bouquet of white tulips sat on the table beside a candle she'd lit early. Tonight was their 10th wedding anniversary. She hummed softly as she placed plates on the table, checking her phone. Derek hadn't texted all day. Unusual, but he had mentioned a corporate event. She smiled, forgiving his silence. He worked hard after all. She picked up her phone and sent him a message. "Dinner is ready. Happy 10th anniversary, my love. See you soon. Red Heart." Across town, Derek's phone buzzed in his pocket as he adjusted his bow tie in a tall mirror framed with orchids. He saw Miriam's message flash across the screen. He stared at it, and then turned the phone face down on the counter. "Sir, the caterers just arrived with the champagne towers," said a staffer. "Shall I direct them to the courtyard?" "Yes," he replied coldly. "Make sure no one spills a drop." The crowd began to fill in. Alicia swept into the venue like a vision in silver. Her gown shimmered with every step. She laughed easily, her makeup flawless, hair sculpted into a regal bun. She turned heads and Derek, standing at the far end of the courtyard, grinned with pride. He met her halfway and kissed her hand. "You look incredible," he whispered. She giggled. "This better be as big as you hinted." "Oh, it's big," he murmured. "Just wait." Meanwhile, at the Okoye residence, Miriam sat alone at the table. The candle flickered. The food had grown cold. She sipped her wine, a strange tightness forming in her chest. She checked her phone again. Still no reply. She dialed, but it rang unanswered. Her smile faltered. Then, a soft chime. A new message. It wasn't from Derek. It was an image. Sent anonymously. Miriam opened it. There he was. Her husband. In a tuxedo. Standing close to Alicia. Their hands intertwined. The caption read, "You deserve to know the truth. A friend." Miriam didn't blink for a full 10 seconds. Her eyes scanned the photo again and again. The venue in the background. The orchids. The lights. Her stomach dropped. It wasn't just a random place. It was hers. Years ago, she had invested in the Orchid Terrace through a quiet real estate portfolio under her maiden name, an arrangement meant to give her financial independence. And Derek didn't know. Now he had the audacity to host a secret proposal party for his mistress. On her property? Miriam's hand began to shake. She reached for her glass and drank deeply. Then, in a sudden flurry, she stood and marched to the study. She pulled out a secure file box and located the folder. OT Holdings Limited. Inside were the original purchase papers, deed of ownership, and business registration under her name. The name Derek had always ignored when she mentioned it, Miriam Onyura. She paced the room once, then pulled out her phone. "Lana," she said, calling her lawyer friend. "I need you to meet me at Orchid Terrace in 30 minutes. "What? Isn't that?" "I'll explain on the way." She didn't pack makeup. She didn't call a driver. She simply peeled off the apron, changed into a black velvet gown, applied bold red lipstick and grabbed the documents. On the road, she sat in the back of Lana's car, silent. Her fingers gripped the folder like a weapon. "You okay?" Lana asked, watching her. "No," Miriam said calmly. "But I will be." Back at the venue, Derek stood near the fountain, giving a signal to the DJ to lower the music. The lights dimmed. Guests grew quiet. Alicia gasped as a single spotlight fell over her. The crowd started pulling out phones. Derek stepped forward with a small velvet box in hand. Just then click, click, click. The sound of heels echoed across the stone path. Gasps rose as Miriam appeared at the garden entrance, Lana just behind her. She walked slowly, gracefully. A queen in mourning. Heads turned. Phones lifted. The scandal hadn't even begun, and already the world was watching. Alicia twirled her champagne flute under the ambient fairy lights, her smile dazzling and effortless. She leaned into Derek, who had his arm around her waist like she was already his. Guests buzzed about the surprise and the posh elegance of the evening. You know, Alicia said, her voice lilting like honey, for a corporate event, everyone here looks ready for a wedding. Derek smirked. Just good taste, baby. She laughed, sipping her drink. Tell me it's not just business tonight. It's not, he whispered into her ear. But you'll see. Meanwhile, tucked in a velvet booth behind a cluster of palm trees, Tiga, one of Alicia's influencer friends, watched the couple. Tiga wasn't stupid. She knew Derek was married. Alicia had lied that he was getting a divorce. But the way Derek held Alicia tonight didn't look transitional, it looked permanent. So she took out her phone and did what most influencers did when something smelled off. She snapped a discreet picture. But she didn't post it online. She sent it, anonymously, to Miriam. Too many women find out last, she murmured. Across town, Miriam stared at the image with an eerie calm. The hurt had settled into something colder. More precise. Her eyes scanned the photo. Her husband. Her dress design. Her venue. Her flowers. Lana drove silently as Miriam opened the file folder, flipping through legal papers. The deed. Her initials. Her money. And now her wrath. I hope you're not just walking in there to scream, Lana said. Because you don't owe that crowd your pain. I'm not going to scream, Miriam said flatly. I'm going to own. As Lana pulled up to the front of Orchid Terrace, the valet, dressed in gold-trimmed black, hurried over, clearly flustered. Madame Onura? He asked, squinting. You're the owner? Yes, Miriam replied, stepping out. Is Samson inside? Yes, madam. He's the head manager. He's overseeing everything. I didn't know you were coming. Don't worry, Miriam said, her eyes fixed ahead. But he knows what to do. Inside the venue, Samson was already waiting at the edge of the garden. He greeted her with a subtle bow. Your timing is perfect. Would you like me to pause the music? No, she said. Let it play. Let him have his show, right before mine starts. Lana handed her the envelope. Inside were copies of the deed, her business registration, and a signed directive that transferred event authority to her name for tonight. Her signature gleamed under the light. You sure you want to do this, Rami? Lana asked, using the nickname only close friends did. Miriam took a breath. I cooked dinner tonight. I bought tulips. I wrote a note. And he planned a whole new life, without me. She turned toward the marble walkway. I won't be erased quietly. As Derek walked Alicia toward the garden center platform, he gave a subtle nod to the DJ. The music softened, switching to a slow instrumental version of Perfect by Ed Sheeran. Alicia's brows lifted. This song. You told me it was your dream song, Derek smiled. I remember. She blushed. You're full of surprises tonight. He kissed her temple and said, You've seen nothing yet. Backstage, Miriam made her way through the corridor flanked with bamboo lanterns. Every step echoed with poise. Guests glanced her way, uncertain. Some gasped, recognizing the infamous wife who kept a low profile despite her husband's public success. She looks like a storm, one whispered. She's stunning, another breathed. In the corner of the courtyard, Samson gave a subtle nod to the staff. The moment had arrived. Derek stood at the center of the garden platform, microphone in hand. Good evening, friends and partners, he began. Tonight isn't about business. It's about love. About second chances. About new beginnings. Alicia's eyes widened. Derek, what are you? Then click, click, click. Heels. Sure. Rhythmic. Interrupting. Every head turned. Miriam appeared at the top of the marble path in black velvet, lips crimson, eyes calm like deep water. The crowd parted as she walked. Phones rose. Gasp. Whispers. Alicia took a step back. Who? Derek's voice caught. Miriam? She climbed the platform, took the microphone from his frozen hand, and smiled at the audience. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said, but before this new beginning continues, I'd like to formally welcome you all to my venue. The crowd erupted. Silence fell like thunder. Miriam stood center stage, lit by the spotlight that was meant for Alicia. Derek blinked in disbelief. What? What are you doing here? Alicia looked like a porcelain doll cracking under pressure. Wait, what does she mean, her venue? Miriam turned her back on Derek and faced the crowd. Some of you may know me, some don't. I'm Miriam Okoye, Derek's wife of 10 years. Camera phones were now in full force. And this beautiful place, these flowers, the lights, the champagne you're all enjoying, belongs to me. I bought it 5 years ago as a quiet investment. Imagine my shock when I found out my husband planned to propose to his mistress, on my property. Gasps rippled through the audience. Derek took a step forward. Miriam, listen. No, she said sharply. You listen. She pulled out the file from her bag and held it high. These are the legal documents. The deed. The receipts. My name. The manager stepped onto the platform and bowed to her. Madam. The staff is ready for your instructions. The waiters shifted, aligning themselves behind her. Alicia turned white. Miriam faced her, voice calm but cutting. You knew he was married. You just didn't think I mattered. You thought I'd stay silent. That I wouldn't find out. That I wasn't watching. Tears welled in Alicia's eyes. I didn't know it was tonight. You didn't care, Miriam cut in. And now neither do I. She stepped back, handed the mic to the DJ and turned to the crowd. Thank you all, she said. You came for a proposal, but you've witnessed a revelation. Then she looked directly at Derek. Enjoy your evening. Off my property. And with that she walked down the steps, heels clicking, head high. The night wasn't ruined. It was reborn. The silence that followed Miriam's exit felt louder than the music that had once filled the garden. Derek stood frozen on stage, still clutching the velvet ring box as if doing so would somehow rewind time. Alicia looked like she might collapse. Her manicured fingers clutched her clutch bag so tightly the pearls strained. A murmur began in the crowd. His wife owns this place, someone whispered. She's his wife, another voice hissed. Alicia turned to Derek, panic bubbling in her voice. Why didn't you tell me she owns this venue? Derek snapped back to the present, dropping the ring box into his pocket like it burned him. I didn't know. I swear, Alicia. I didn't know. This was supposed to be private property. She never mentioned. You mean you planned a proposal without even checking who owns the place? Alicia stepped back, eyes wide with fury. How careless can you be? Before Derek could answer, Samson, the manager, approached him with a clipped tone. Mr. Okoye, on behalf of the management, I've been instructed to remind you that continued use of the premises must comply with the owner's permission. And as of this moment. Stop, Derek barked. Don't you dare throw me out of here. Do you know who I am? Samson raised an eyebrow. Yes, the husband of our boss. A beat of humiliation passed before the security team stepped in. Derek was given one choice, leave quietly or be escorted. As he stormed off the stage, the whispers grew into a storm. Cameras followed. So did pitying glances. And Alicia? She bolted. The cold air outside bit Alicia's bare shoulders as she stumbled out of the venue. The silver dress that had shimmered under the lights now looked gaudy under the street lamps. She yanked her heels off and limped toward her car, mascara smudging under her eyes. Behind her, Derek called out, Wait, Alicia. Stop. She spun, fire in her eyes. Don't touch me. He held up his hands. I didn't know she owned the place. I swear. Oh, now you're clueless? She literally held up papers in front of everyone. You let me walk in there like some trophy side piece, on her turf? I didn't plan it like this, he said desperately. I was going to handle everything. I was leaving her. Alicia laughed bitterly. With what? You didn't even check your own guest list. Her voice cracked, drawing attention from bystanders. Derek grabbed her hand, trying to calm her. Listen to me. We can fix this. We can still. She pulled away. Fix this? Derek, this isn't spilled wine. It's a viral disaster. I'm trending for all the wrong reasons. Just then her phone pinged. A friend had texted a screenshot of a tweet. Side chick gets proposed to on wife's venue. Wife takes the mic, side chick takes the L. Alicia felt her knees buckle. This was supposed to be the best night of my life. And it still can be, Derek said. We'll do damage control. No, Alicia whispered. You do damage control. I'm done. She got in her car and drove off, leaving Derek alone in the night. Back at Orchid Terrace, the remaining guests lingered, most too stunned to leave. Miriam stood near the bar, sipping water with Lana by her side. She was calm now, her explosion had been swift, public and measured. "Miriam," Samson said quietly, "do you want the DJ to resume?" She shook her head. "No need. Let them talk. Silence says more." Lana leaned in. "You just went viral, you know." "I'm aware." Miriam turned as a younger woman approached, phone still in hand. "Mrs. Okoye? I'm sorry. That was iconic. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but you're trending. People are calling you a hero." Miriam gave her a polite smile. "Thank you." As the girl walked away, Miriam handed Lana her phone. "I want to do it." "Do what?" "Post a statement. Not for Derek. Not for Alicia. For women like me." Lana nodded. "Say it your way." Miriam opened Instagram. Her fingers hovered for a moment. Then she typed, "When the lie is loud, let your truth be louder. I didn't lose a man tonight, I found myself." She clicked post. Then she turned to Samson. "I want every remaining guest served dessert on the house. Let them leave with something sweet." And with that, Miriam left the venue, head held high. Alicia sat in her condo, staring at the blank wall in front of her. Her silver gown was in a heap on the floor, her makeup smeared, her phone vibrating every few seconds. "Don't look at it," she told herself. But she did. Twitter was a battlefield. Hashtag VenueWife was trending. Hashtag proposal gone wrong. Hashtag she owns the stage. Her image had become the punchline of every meme. Even fashion blogs were dragging her, looking glamorous on the wrong side of history. Tears welled in her eyes as she buried her face in her hands. She tried calling Derek. No answer. Then she went live. Tears running down her face, she stared into the camera. To everyone watching. "I didn't know. I didn't know the venue belonged to his wife. I didn't know this would happen. I never meant to hurt anyone." But the comments were savage. "You didn't know he was married? Girl, the math wasn't matting. Take several seats. Your tears aren't receipts." She ended the live and stared at her reflection on the screen, broken, ashamed, erased. And in that moment she finally realized. She had never been the main character in this story. The next morning, Miriam's face was on every blog. She walked in and took over her husband's proposal. Turns out she owned the venue. CEO wife delivers the coldest mic drop in history. Hashtag know your worth. Why Miriam's move is the blueprint. A morning show host called it, the realest revenge ever caught on camera. Miriam sat in her living room sipping tea, her phone buzzing non-stop. She had hundreds of DMs. Brand inquiries. Interview requests. Even a luxury makeup brand offered her a deal. Lana called. "You've officially broken the internet." "I didn't mean to," Miriam said quietly. "But you did, and with elegance." A knock at the door. Her assistant stepped in. "A producer from Moments Africa is requesting an interview." "Tell them I'll think about it," Miriam replied. Then a call came in, an unknown number. She answered. A woman's voice. "Miriam, this is Mama Okoye, Derek's mother." Miriam blinked. "Yes. I saw the video," the older woman said, her voice trembling. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. For everything. Forever doubting you. I raised a fool." Miriam smiled softly. "Thank you, Mama." As she ended the call, she looked around the home she had built, the strength she had reclaimed. And she whispered, "This is only the beginning." Derek slumped at his mahogany desk, phone in hand, bloodshot eyes scanning the barrage of missed calls. His inbox was drowning. Not with contracts, but with cancellations. A terse message from his biggest client, Tecton Group, blinked at him. "In light of recent events, we are pausing all collaborations indefinitely." Another email followed. "Your name now draws distraction. We can't associate our brand with scandal." Derek dragged his palms down his face, the weight of public humiliation tightening like a noose around his neck. Alicia wasn't answering. His office line wouldn't stop ringing. But no one was calling with work, they were calling to distance themselves. Even his junior associates looked at him sideways. Just then a soft knock. His secretary stepped in. "Sir. Channel 7 just aired the footage again. It's now over 5 million views. Also, your PR rep quit." He shot to his feet. "She what?" She said, and I quote, "I don't clean up messes I didn't make." He slammed the door shut behind her. Meanwhile, across town, Miriam sat at a roundtable brunch event, one she was invited to overnight. The theme, the power of poise. A moderator introduced her as the woman who turned betrayal into branding. "Tell us," the host asked, "when you walked onto that stage, what were you feeling?" Miriam smiled. Power. Not because of revenge, but because I stopped apologizing for surviving. The room erupted in applause. Miriam sat across from her divorce lawyer, a composed woman named Clara who wore wire-rimmed glasses and a quiet smile. I've been keeping records for years, Miriam began, laying down folders. Bank statements, text messages, business contributions. I was the seed money behind his company. Clara flipped through the files, impressed. You were married in community of property? Yes, but I never fought him. I just supported. Silently. Well, silent no more, Clara said. This is solid. You'll get more than half. Possibly even control. Miriam inhaled deeply. Let him try to bluff. I'll raise. Meanwhile, Derek's phone rang with a caller ID he recognized, Family Court Registrar. His eyes widened. The first summons had arrived. He met his lawyer, Tund, an hour later. Tund read through Miriam's submissions. Did you really sign over 30% of your firm to her in year 3? Tund asked. It was symbolic, Derek muttered. She was just supporting me. Well, symbolism or not, it's in writing. She holds weight now. You might lose the firm. Derek stood pacing. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was just my wife, not a strategist. Tund looked up. Clearly you married a lot more than you thought. Back in Miriam's office, Lana entered with champagne. Files officially in. Court date set. You ready? Miriam lifted her glass. I was born ready. Alone in his once bustling office, Derek leaned back in his chair, eyes drifting to a framed photo on his shelf. Him and Miriam in year 1. Young, hungry, in love. She was smiling with her eyes. Back then, she used to show up at his job with packed lunches, sticky notes of encouragement, and gentle forehead kisses. He blinked. God, what did I do? Flashbacks flooded in. Her hands sketching the first logo for his firm on a napkin. The nights she stayed up late helping him revise pitches. Her voice saying, even if you fail, you'll never fail alone. He pushed the frame over. Glass cracked. Meanwhile, Miriam was sorting through old items at home. She found their wedding photo in a drawer. She didn't cry. She just sighed. She called Lana. Do I have to go through the memory boxes? Not legally, Lana replied, but emotionally, maybe. That night, Derek called his mother. Mama, he said, voice cracking. I messed up. Her voice came firm but soft. You lost a diamond chasing glitter. That girl built you. And now you're a man standing on her blueprint pretending you poured the foundation. He sobbed into the line. But Mama didn't console him. She only prayed. A week later, Alicia reappeared online. Her profile had been inactive since the disaster, but today she went live. She sat in her room, lighting soft, makeup minimal, voice trembling. I want to say, I'm sorry. To Miriam. To everyone who watched what happened. I was wrong. Thousands tuned in. The comments flew. Too late, sis. You weren't crying when you wore silver heels on her property. You only care because your deals dried up. She pushed through. I didn't know the full truth. But that's no excuse. I got carried away with the fantasy Derek painted. I thought I was the prize. I wasn't. More comments. Girl, take accountability. You knew he was married. Next time, check the venue ownership. Alicia paused, then ended the live abruptly. It backfired. Her sponsors didn't return. Her agency quietly dropped her. She shut off her socials. Gone. Meanwhile, Miriam's inbox filled with invitations. Panels, talk shows, a book deal titled, Built, Burned, and Reborn. She smiled, scrolling through. I didn't need to drag anyone, she said. The truth did the dragging for me. Court was cold and clinical. But Miriam walked in like it was her runway. Derek sat stiffly at the opposing table, flanked by 2 lawyers and hollowed by shame. The judge reviewed the files, glasses low on his nose. Miriam Onyuro Okoye, you claim intellectual contribution and partial ownership of Mr. Okoye's firm? I do, Your Honor, Miriam replied calm. You provided financial backing, branding assistance, and strategic planning during formative years? Yes. The judge turned to Derek. Do you contest? Derek cleared his throat. No, sir. The judge continued. Court recognizes her contributions. Division of marital property shall include a 60% equity stake awarded to Mrs. Okoye, as per legal documentation. Miriam closed her eyes just for a second. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. But she won. Outside the courtroom, press waited. Lana leaned in. You ready? Miriam nodded and stepped out. The cameras flashed. Microphones pushed forward. "How does it feel?" a reporter asked. Miriam looked up. "Empowering. Any message for your husband?" She paused. Then replied, "No. I said everything I needed to say the moment I walked on that stage." And with that, she got into her car and left the past in the rearview mirror. The sun glinted through the glass panels of Miriam's new office, a sleek, modern space overlooking the Lagos skyline. The sign on the wall read, "Anura Consulting Group. Tagline, Know Your Worth." Inside, Miriam sat across from her first team of hires, 6 women, all accomplished, all previously overlooked, betrayed, or professionally dismissed. "This company," she began, "isn't just about branding and business. It's about rebuilding after being broken. It's about starting again." Applause followed. Lana, now her head of strategy, gave her a proud nod. Their debut campaign launched a week later, a digital ad featuring women in different walks of life, a lawyer wiping tears in a bathroom stall, a housewife closing a laptop filled with rejection letters, a single mother standing outside a job interview. And then Miriam's voiceover. "You were never too small. They were just too blind. Now, let them see you rise." The campaign went viral in under 24 hours. The comments flooded in. "This gave me chills. She turned pain into purpose. I'm applying right now." The ad was broadcast across Africa. Miriam was invited to speak on TEDx Lagos. Her LinkedIn exploded. She was profiled in Forbes Africa under the headline, "The Woman Who Took the Mic and the Market." And somewhere across town, Derek saw the billboard on a commercial bus. His name no longer rang in boardrooms. But hers did. Louder. Derek sat in his modest apartment, far from the luxury penthouse he once shared with Miriam. His world had shrunk. No driver. No assistants. Just him, a cracked coffee table, and silence. He turned on the TV. The ad played again, Miriam's face glowing across the screen. Her voice steady. Her words haunting. "You were never too small." He reached for the remote, paused, then muted the TV. His eyes scanned the room. Cardboard boxes. Dusty awards. Forgotten drafts of business proposals that would never launch. He sighed. Then opened his drawer, pulling out an old envelope. Inside, photos. From the early days. Him and Miriam laughing on a park bench. Her sketching on his laptop, barefoot, wearing his shirt. Sticky notes in her handwriting, "You've got this. I believe in you." He wiped a tear, then suddenly picked up his phone and dialed. No answer. He texted, "I saw your ad. You were always the visionary. I never saw it until now. I'm sorry." He stared at the screen, waiting. But Miriam never replied. Instead, she was across town at a mentoring panel for women in transition. She stood on stage, wearing all white, commanding silence with presence alone. When asked about forgiveness, she answered, "Forgiveness isn't always an invitation. Sometimes it's a door you close, for yourself." And that door had been shut, locked, and burned. A week later, Miriam arrived at her office to find a package waiting on her desk. A bouquet of deep red roses tied with black satin. Elegant. Intentional. She frowned, turning the small card attached. No name. Just 5 words. "I still think about you." She knew who it was from. She didn't hesitate. She walked the bouquet straight to the janitor's closet, lifted the lid on the bin and dropped it in, roses and all. Lana caught her on the way back. "Was that from who I think it was?" Miriam didn't answer. She didn't need to. Instead, she walked into the break room, where 2 of her junior analysts were discussing life goals. One of them asked her, "Ma, how did you stay so composed through everything?" "I think I would have screamed." Miriam smiled. "Because I learned that silence, when paired with action, is the loudest sound in the room." Later that night, she sat on her balcony, barefoot, sipping hibiscus tea, the city humming below. Her phone buzzed. A message from Lana. "Your feature just aired. You looked powerful." Miriam smiled, placing the phone down. She didn't open social media. She didn't check to see if Derek had watched. She didn't care. Her peace had become too expensive to rent out to her past. And in that quiet, unbothered evening breeze, she finally exhaled. The marquee outside the Grand Sapphire Hotel glowed with soft gold lights. Women of Influence Gala, celebrating visionary leaders across Africa. Camera flashes lit up the red carpet as the city's most influential women arrived one by one. Designers, CEOs, philanthropists, and creatives, each making their statement in glittering gowns and confident strides. But it wasn't until a sleek black SUV pulled up that murmurs became a full-on roar. The door opened slowly. and out stepped Miriam. Wearing a custom crimson gown that draped over one shoulder, the fabric shimmering like molten silk. Her hair was swept up in a crown-like twist, diamond earrings catching every flash of light. She didn't wear anger or heartbreak. She wore power. She stood still for a moment, allowing the cameras to capture her in full. Gasps rippled through the press section. That's her. Miriam Okoye, no Anyura now. She looks like a goddess. A journalist leaned into her mic, almost breathless. Miriam, you look absolutely radiant tonight. Can we ask, how does it feel walking this carpet after everything? Miriam paused, then smiled. It was calm, controlled, and deeply self-assured. I suppose tonight, she said slowly, is the result of what happens when a woman refuses to stay silent. Closure for me needed a crowd. The journalists erupted with excitement. Another reporter chimed in, what's your message to women watching who've gone through betrayal? Miriam glanced at the camera lens like it was a mirror. Don't waste your voice on those who gamble your worth. Speak once, and let your silence after that echo forever. More flashes. Applause even from bystanders. Inside the ballroom, the stage had been set with deep wine-colored velvet curtains, candlelit centerpieces, and a theme etched in gold. From ashes to ascendancy. Miriam was one of the final honorees of the night. As she took her seat, a few murmurs fluttered nearby. That's the woman who flipped the scandal into an empire. She didn't even raise her voice. She didn't have to. The host soon took the stage and began announcing honorees. Every time Miriam's name came close to being mentioned, the camera found her. And she remained poised, grace in every glance. And then it happened. The host's voice rose with pride. Our final honoree tonight needs no introduction. She didn't just break the internet, she broke the mold. Businesswoman. Visionary. And a reminder that dignity is louder than drama. Spotlight. Applause. Miriam walked to the stage, the train of her crimson gown trailing behind like a queen's cape. She stood at the podium and let the applause fade naturally. Then, 6 months ago I was sitting in a dining room alone. My candlelit anniversary dinner going cold. And tonight, I stand before you not as someone who overcame a man, but as someone who overcame the silence that comes after betrayal. She paused. No woman plans to be humiliated. But we all have the choice of what we do next. For me, I picked up my pride, turned it into strategy, and refused to let someone else narrate my ending. A few in the audience had tears in their eyes. She continued. So this award, this recognition, it's not just mine. It's for every woman who's ever been told to keep quiet. For every one of us who sat in the shadows, waiting to be chosen. Let me say this now, you were never waiting. You were rising. The crowd stood in ovation. The room thundered with applause. As Miriam descended the stage, she saw a familiar figure standing at the far back. Derek. Wearing a plain black suit. No smile. No press. Just him in the shadows. Their eyes met for a moment. And in that silent exchange, Miriam didn't flinch. She didn't pause. She didn't walk over. She simply looked forward again, and walked away. Because tonight wasn't about him. It was about everything she built when he thought she was broken. The soft hum of violin strings floated through the evening air at Orchid Terrace. The same venue. But it looked entirely different now. No deceit. No betrayal. Just grace. Warm lights danced over the courtyard. Guests clinked glasses of champagne and laughter filled the air. It was the annual Rise Gala, a charity fundraiser Miriam had organized to support women-owned businesses across Africa. Everything had come full circle. She stood near the edge of the marble fountain, watching guests arrive, all dressed in elegant tones of white and gold. Her gown, sleek and minimal, flowed as she moved through the crowd, nodding to familiar faces, accepting warm hugs. A young business owner approached her with nervous excitement. Miriam, I just wanted to say thank you. Your story gave me the courage to leave a toxic partnership. I started my own skincare brand. We just hit our first 1,000 units. Miriam smiled, her eyes glinting with pride. You did the hard part, you believed in yourself. I just lit a match. The woman laughed. Well, your fire started something in all of us. Miriam glanced up at the podium in the distance. It was almost time. As the evening continued, the energy in the garden was electric but elegant. A far cry from the night Derek had tried to propose to his mistress in the same spot. And now, that night had become legend. A page in a story that no longer defined her, but had launched her. Lana appeared beside her, holding a tablet. Ready for your speech, Queen? Miriam took a slow breath. Always. She made her way up to the podium, passing by guests who gave standing ovations before she even spoke. Her heels clicked softly on the stone, each step deliberate, firm, unwavering. When she reached the mic, she looked around, not for cameras, not for validation, but because she truly saw herself now. "Good evening," she began, her voice calm but commanding. "Exactly 1 year ago I stood right here, not as a host, not as an icon, not as a symbol. I stood here as a woman, learning the cost of betrayal in real time." The crowd hushed. Every word hung in the air. "I remember walking through that gate, angry, heartbroken, unsure. I didn't know what I'd say. But I knew I had to say something. And what started as an interruption became a declaration." She paused, scanning the crowd. "And now here we are. Full circle." Polite applause rippled through. "This gala is not about revenge," she continued. "It's about rebuilding. About taking what was broken and repurposing it into something beautiful. Every ticket sold tonight funds a dream, each donation unlocks someone's next chapter." She smiled. "We are no longer asking for seats at tables. We're building our own." Thunderous applause. She stepped away from the mic as a soft jazz tune played. Guests stood, clapping as she descended the stairs. And then, just off to the side, someone approached. Derek. He wasn't in a suit. He wore a simple collared shirt, sleeves rolled up. No cameras trailed him. No crowd gasped. Just a man. A memory. "Miriam," he said gently. She turned, not startled, not cold. Simply aware. "Derek. I know I shouldn't be here. I wasn't invited. I just wanted to say something. And I'll go." She raised an eyebrow, arms folded softly. "Go on." He looked down, then back at her. "You didn't just rebuild. You soared. I watched it happen. Every article. Every speech. And I finally understand, you were never just my wife. You were a force I didn't deserve." She didn't respond. He continued. "I hurt you. Publicly. Deeply. And the worst part is, you gave me every reason not to. I didn't lose you the day you left. I lost you the day I underestimated you." Still, Miriam remained silent. He sighed. "I'm not asking for anything. I just needed to say thank you. For everything you did for me, even when I didn't see it." She finally nodded. "You're right, Derek," she said. "You did lose me long before I walked out of your life. But thank you for showing me what I never want to return to." There was no malice in her voice. Just finality. "And Derek?" He smiled faintly. "You look happy." "I am happy," she said. "Not because of who I lost, but because of who I found." She turned and walked away, back toward her guests, her life, her legacy. Derek stood there for a moment longer, then turned and quietly exited the way he came, invisible to the world that had once worshipped him. Later that night, Miriam stood on the balcony above the terrace, looking down at the laughter, the dancing, the purpose she had built. Lana joined her. "Was that Derek?" "It was." "You okay?" Miriam smiled. For the first time in a long time, yes. They stood in silence for a moment. And then Lana chuckled. "Remember when we planned to just hand him the papers quietly? No drama?" Miriam laughed softly. "And yet, look at the stage we turned it into." The music swelled. Fireworks burst above the garden, golden sparks raining down on the crowd below. Miriam watched it all, eyes full. Not of tears, but of light. Her voice echoed in her head, not from pain but power. "Let the world watch. Let the crowd witness. Because I'm not broken. I'm born again." And this time, she owned the stage. She owned the story. And most of all, she owned herself. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe, and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.